Media.
Welcome back to Behind the Bastards, the very podcast about, Bad People podcast, the worst in all of history. I'm the host of the show and also bad at introducing it. Let's distract everyone from me being yet again incompetent at the one thing I have to do other than read a script and bring on our guest, Ed Zitron. Ed, how you doing today?
What's up? I'm great.
You're great? That's good. That's better than bad. Ed, you have a podcast called Better Offline, don't you?
I do.
And you talk about a number of things on that show, but you've kind of you've gained a great deal of fame and notoriety lately by repeatedly calling out a lot of the grifty and conny aspects of what some people call the AI revolution. I think that would be fair to say. And you're working on a book right now, aren't you, Ed? You want to give the audience the title of that book?
It's called Why Everything Stopped Working, and it's about how everything stopped working due to technology and how we got to where we are today, which kind of fucking sucks.
That is a great premise, and I can't wait for the book. And I wanted to help you out with some research, Ed, on something that's kind of off the beaten path and not directly involved with the tech industry that you've reported on, but in terms of like how people fall for cons and specifically con technology products. It's a really important story. And so I think you might get some value in hearing it, even though it's technically set in an industry that's not your immediate industry. This is a defense industry technology story.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the story about the bomb detectors that didn't work, that everyone, particularly Iraq, bought? Okay, great. Ed, we're going to have a really good time today.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of things that explode, remember when Bezos' rocket exploded yesterday?
It sure just did. It sure just did. And anytime something explodes, I'm happy, unless it's like a bad explosion that kills a lot of people.
Nobody died.
Nobody died.
And
so
the videos were really fun.
Yeah.
That was a big boom.
Yeah, it is amazing how just knowing like no one was hurt can make the two different equally nightmarish explosions, one of them just be really funny. Like you watch the video of that explosion when that the town of West in Texas blew up a few years back, and it's not fun at all. It's just terrifying. Yeah. But the Blue Origin rocket blowing up, pretty funny.
we looked at every angle.
It made the sound that Rats Tyrell did in Phantom Menace when he crashed. It goes,
That's right.
And it just goes,
That's
boom.
Right.
It's the same explosion and the same sound. But I was much sadder about Rats Tyrell.
I love that you know his name, Ed.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
This is Jenny Garth from I Choose Me with Jenny Garth. History is full of mysteries, like how people ever survived before modern laundry detergent. Luckily, Tide's here with boosted stain fighting for cleaner, whiter, brighter, and fresher laundry versus Tide Simply. No wonder it was America's #1 detergent in sales last year. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide. Tide is a proud sponsor of the Elton John Impact Awards, honoring those who have helped shape a more inclusive and compassionate world with their artistry, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to equality. You won't want to miss the Elton John Impact Awards podcast, available on June 1st on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere podcasts are heard.
They track, they target. That hotel, those shoes, your searches, your clicks, every time you come back. Prices can change when websites know you want something. Look again and all of a sudden it costs more, and they saw you coming. Startpage, the private search engine, helps keep what you look up online from becoming a price tag. Nothing saved, nothing to use against you. What you search for is your business. Try Startpage, the private search engine, at startpage.com. That's startpage.com.
Did you know you can get your prep for free? Mister provides 100% free prep and DoxyPep prescribed online and delivered right to your door discreetly. Whether you have insurance or not, Mister's got you covered in 3 easy steps. 1, sign up at Mister.com. 2, consult with a doctor online. 3, complete your at-home test kit. And then your prep and DoxyPep come right to your door. No doctor's office, no needles, no paperwork. Easy, judgment-free, and totally online. Head to Mister.com and get started today.
A burst pipe, a dead water heater, the AC calling it quits. Who do you call? HomeServe is an easy way to handle unexpected home repairs with plans covering stuff basic homeowners insurance usually won't. Instead of scrambling for a contractor, you make one call to get the repair process started. Join the millions of customers who trust HomeServe right now. Go to homeserve.com/podcast for 50% less your first year. That's homeserve.com/podcast. Savings compared to renewal price. Void in Florida.
So, as you know, Ed, and as everyone who listens to your show knows, the U.S. tech industry is currently dealing with a teensy issue of its entire economic foundation, increasingly resting on a bed of fraudulent claims about what AI can do. And every week you break down some new lie or set of lies about how this new AI update or whatever works, or which giant fantasy data centers are actually being constructed and which aren't. And for those of us who care about objective reality and want companies to sell products that actually do something, this is a distressing state of affairs. And I wanted to give you a story about kind of how dumb that process can get and how really easy it is to trick even very serious people into buying absolute nonsense as long as they feel like they're dummies who are missing out if they don't buy it.
Okay.
You know, that's the story. And ultimately,
All right.
it's going to take us to Iraq and a fake bomb detecting device that got so many people killed, a startling number of people killed.
Yeah.
But first, Ted, we got to start in prehistory, in the far reaches of time, with a psychological phenomenon that we now call the ideomotor effect. You've heard of this, right? Have you heard of the ideomotor effect?
No.
Okay. This is, you may just not remember the name, because this is this is basically when your thoughts or your mental images of something cause a reflexive and generally unconscious automatic muscle movement, right? So you and your friends are around a Ouija board, and none of you think that you're moving the little glass that picks the letters, but all of you are a little bit, right? You're just not kind of aware of the micro movements, and that moves the thing around the board and creates the illusion that some spirit is moving your hands, right? I think people are generally aware of that concept.
Yes.
Right.
And the ideomotor effect it explains actually a lot, specifically of things in early human religious history, but not just that. And one interesting thing to me, have you ever heard of dowsing?
No.
This is still a thing today. It's not a thing I think most regular people know about in the 21st century, but it's still something that's done all over the world. And it's a thing that has kind of been repeatedly invented in cultures around the world. And the idea behind dowsing is you've got this, usually a forked wooden stick, and you walk around with it because you're looking for water, or you're looking for an underground mine, right? You think there's gold underground. And as you're walking, if the fork kind of dips in a direction, that's the dowsing rod finding water or whatever thing you're looking for, underground or underwater, right? And again, it's the idea is that there's some magnetic force that's pulling it down and tells you where you should dig. The people who claim this is real tend to now say that there's a basis in science. There's not, and people have just been doing this for forever because it seems like it should work.
Do people still think this works?
Yes, my dad did this professionally when he was a young man. We're talking the early 80s, you know?
Hell yeah.
So yes, people still do douse.
Very cool. Very cool.
And because one thing dowsers will point out, because there are dowsers who have a great record of well, this guy is using a dowsing rod and he's found water all these times. Generally, what people tend to think is actually happening is that these folks have just been traveling around and looking for water long enough and have enough of an understanding of geology that kind of unconsciously, when they suspect that somewhere's right, their hand is moving, you know?
They're ignoring their real skill in favor of
yes.
Of just pseudoscience. Very cool.
Of crediting the stick, yes.
We'll
talk more about that later. But dowsing goes back surprisingly far. We have ancient Chinese texts from about 2000 BCE or so that depict Emperor Yu of Hsia of using a dowsing rod in something approaching the modern fashion. And there are even some archaeologists who will argue that a set of cave paintings in Algeria from about 6000 BCE also depict dowsing. That's highly debated. These guys might have just had bows and arrows. It's a cave painting. painting, so there's some room for debate. But Herodotus described a similar tool in use by the Scythians in the 5th century BCE, and there are a number of other suspected or confirmed cases of dowsing and dowsing-adjacent behavior in civilizations around the world. And sometimes, with the Scythians, I wouldn't be surprised if it traveled out of China, but there's evidence that different peoples have kind of figured out this basic idea independently, sort of like the bow and arrow, right? For whatever reason, this is just something that seems natural to people. The practice was well known enough in the days of the Roman Empire that the New Testament even has a passage denouncing dowsing. From an article on the Archaeology Review blog by Carl Fegans, quote, "My people consult their wooden idol, and their diviner's rod informs them, for a spirit of harlotry has led them astray, and they have played the harlot, departing from their God." And that's Hosea 4:12. So you're
using technology the Bible
harlotry.
Is scrutinizing. Right. The Bible is saying, hey, whoa, don't believe in this bullshit.
If we're comparing dowsing to AI, this is the first, an early Pope encyclical against dowsing. It's harlot's behavior. Those sticks will make people think about ladies. I don't think that's actually what it was saying, but it's funny wording. I just like the word harlot. So this is probably part of why dowsing rods became increasingly known as witching rods in the Western world. Have you ever heard of a witching rod? It's the same idea. And they call it that because people thought it was the devil sometimes. And while the practice was banned at times in the Christian world during this period as a result, and even persecuted, this did not overly inhibit its spread. By the 15th century CE, Germans were using forked branches they called wishing rods to find ore veins in mountains. Or again, they're not actually finding stuff with the sticks. The sticks don't work. That's just what they think is going on. In 1556, a humanist scholar and a mineralogist named Georgius Agricola wrote the earliest surviving illustrated account of dowsing as a professional practice. Now, by this point, by the time old Georgie puts that down, we've had a documented history of about 3,500 years of humans using dowsing, maybe more, and enough people believe dowsing works that it's a common practice. But even in the 1500s, which is not an advanced era for scientific understanding, this guy Agricola is like, there's no way this is real, right? And he writes, "There are many great contentions between miners concerning the forked twig, for some say that it is of the greatest use in discovering veins, and others deny it." So we're already starting to do some evidence-based, shedding of doubt on this practice.
Were there guides how to douse? Yeah, and are they just step 2 when it wiggles? I don't really know. What is
he's the first one to write it down. We have to assume, just given the nature of the way things were spread back then, most dowsers would have been taught how to dowse. You're not getting a guidebook with your first rod. You're an apprentice and you're being taught,
Yeah.
So Georgius was kind of the first person to document what was probably already standard wisdom within the field, if that makes sense.
Wisdom of the rod.
the rod, holding a stick and saying, water!
The wisdom of the stick.
The wisdom of the stick.
Beautiful. I love it.
Now, I found all the information, most of the information about dowsing that I've read for you on a website called Plus Value India, which had an article on the history of dowsing that seemed a lot less shady before I looked at the rest of the website.
Won a Pulitzer last year.
It sure did. It sure did. So if he's going to show you the website, if you want to look at how reputable this source is, the top of the page is 3 steps energized, 3 to 5 day delivery. Transform your home's energy without breaking a single wall.
Perfect.
And it's about healing crystals. It's about healing crystals.
Yes.
So, as that should make clear, the fact that this history of dowsing is on the website selling you magic crystals, dowsing is woo, right? This isn't real science. Dowsing rods don't identify gold or iron or water and pull in their direction. People unconsciously decide a particular area seems likely, and their hand moves unconsciously.
Yeah.
If someone's intuition is good or they're lucky, they find what they're looking for, and this process works out often enough throughout history that it's kept alive. Not just alive, but shockingly influential. In his article, Fegans notes that, quote, archaeologist and skeptic Jeb Card writes in his Spooky Archaeology, which is a book, that 1 in 8 archaeology instructors in the 1980s were favorable to dowsing. This is initially hard to accept. Dowsing is the kind of nonsense that was popular before people understood the ideomotor effect, but surely by the 1980s we knew the practice was bupkis. And we did, in the same way we know vaccines work. But the world at large has not always accepted that knowledge, right? So the fact that like that many archaeology instructors in the 80s, 1 in 8's not most, but it's more than you'd guess, right? Believing in dowsing should show you how hard it is to convince people, even when there's never been any good evidence dowsing works.
Right.
Even though, despite that fact, despite how long we've known it's nonsense, people were still buying it then and still do today.
To the idea of
educated people, by the way.
Like the idea of a guide, like the years in, you're like, okay, step 1, hold the stick. 2, I'm just like, step 2 is where it keeps getting stuck. It moves. Wait until it moves. Is it like using the clutch
you gotta
on a
walk
manual
around.
car?
I think you're supposed to just kind of walk past the area, and if it dips down, that's like the sign that something's there, right?
As
There's
opposed
some variance to this.
To your hand dipping.
Well, you couldn't do it with a hand. That's just silly, Ed.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. Very good.
I mentioned earlier that the Ouija board works by way of the ideomotor effect, too, and it does. But the Ouija board is a new product. Any claims of ancient provenance are just marketing. It is, however, based on an older idea, in fact, a very old idea, which is the magic or exploring pendulum. And if you were to get transported back in time to the days of ancient Rome and meet, like, someone claiming to be a fortune teller, they would probably do so. There's a good chance they'd do this, where basically you've got like a plate or a bowl that's engraved with pictures or letters or words or symbols that stand for something. And you hold this pendulum. Sometimes it's just like a metal ring on a string, and you hold it above that. And as the ideomotor effect makes it swing in a certain direction, you're saying, oh, the spirit is picking out different symbols or letters, and it's spelling out, your fortune or whatever. It's answering whatever question it's been asked you. We have documentation of this practice dating back at least to 371 BC in Europe, or BCE in Europe, according to an article on Quackwatch. Quote, a question would be put to the priest. The movements of the ring would then be observed. When the ring was set in motion, it would swing towards one of the letters. This letter would be recorded, then the same process would be used to select another letter, right? And that's, basically how these things work. So how did dowsing stay relevant and seemingly credible up until the modern era, whereas, like, the magic pendulum became a board game for children, right? Even though it's the same amount of legitimacy. That is interesting, isn't it? Right? That like one of these is a Parker Brothers game and the others people pay for it,
Is it because is it the client base? Because for the dowsing, it's the ore and the water, and I guess that there are those people, and the others are seeking to communicate with the dead.
Right.
Different markets.
Right. But it is interesting that a bunch of like hard-nosed oil and gas investors over the years have been fooled by something that like most kids know isn't really real, just because it's in a different, it's presented to them in a different situation, right? Mm-hmm. I do think that's kind of telling. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can kind of see where you're going with this too. If it just has the appearance. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
I sure hope they don't use this logic for bombs.
No. You don't want to see this logic used for bombs.
No.
But if you want to know how this logic went from stuff that like fortune tellers and wizards would use and wound up in a bomb detector, the answer to that starts with the Spiritism movement of the mid-19th century. Jamie Loftus talked about this a lot on the show, one of the shows that she did for us. This is like around the late 1800s, early 1900s. You suddenly have seances become a big thing, right? There's this explosion and all these different weird occult movements. Some of this does feed into the Nazis. Some of it feeds into what's going to become the New Age movement over here. But it's starting in like the 1840s and 50s with people trying to communicate with the dead. And in that period of time, often believing that there might have been actual science to allowing people to communicate with spirits or the dead. Because it's like 1848. Right? It's not a crazy thing to believe in 1848 based on the science of the times.
Yeah, we got into that at length on Ghost Church.
Ghost Church, yes, that was Jamie's show. So the first scientist to actually bust the magic pendulum and thus explain the ideomotor effect and bust all ideomotor-related magical phenomena was a French dude named Chevreul. Right? He's a scientist in 1808. He'd trained as a chemist and had thus read a standard textbook for the field written by a Strasbourg professor who advocated using a magic pendulum to do chemical analysis. That's where science is at this point. In the early 1800s, if you're trying to analyze like what different chemicals or anything before you do like a chemical experiment, like where you're mixing shit together, you use like a fucking ring on a chain, and the way it swings tells you what the minerals are, right? So,
right.
And Chevreul, to his credit, he's one of these guys who just seems to have kind of a naturally scientific mind. So once his instructors tell him, and this is how you analyze what chemicals are in things, he's like, really? I don't. That's not.
You sure
you guys
about
don't really
that?
believe this, right? Like, this isn't what we're doing, is it? This can't be right. So he uses, but that said, when he uses the pendulum for the first time, it works. Like, he gets a chemical compound and he knows what it is, and somehow the pendulum swings the way it's supposed to when it's over that in order to identify it as like mercury, right? So he's given a plate of mercury. He knows it's mercury. Unconsciously, his hand makes the motion that is supposed to indicate that it's mercury, right? So at first he's like, oh, fuck, maybe it does work. Maybe I'm wrong. But again, having a good scientific mind, he decides, I'm going to do some actual testing. And I'm going to actually try to do kind of an early version of double-blind testing. So he, like, puts a plate beneath the pendulum and the mercury, and that stops it, like, the thing from swinging. And he also tests putting his arm on a support, which reduces the movements and kind of provides evidence that, like, no, these are unconscious muscle movements.
I was thinking about that with the divining rod. You could test if it was real by having, like, a cast or something.
Exactly. And that's what he does, right? Because he's a smart guy. Now, this prompts him to conduct the first double-blind test on the ideomotor effect. And I'm going to quote again from that Quackwatch article. He blindfolded himself, and then he had an assistant interpose or remove the glass plate between the pendulum and the mercury without his knowledge. Under these conditions, nothing happened. Chevreul concluded, so long as I believed the movement possible, it took place. But after discovering the cause, I could not reproduce it. His experiments with the pendulum show how easy it is to mistake illusions for realities whenever we are confronted by phenomena in which the human sense organs are involved under conditions imperfectly analyzed. Interesting quote to think about when you read about, like, AI chatbots passing, like, Turing tests and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting, thing to think on. So again, I do like stories about this guy because it gives you, it's just one of these, like, you can really see a brilliant mind shining through history. This man who was just too smart to believe what literally everyone else in his field said was true. And was like, well, I'm just going to literally do a basic test. Nope, everyone's wrong.
This does make me think of my work, which, like, 50% of the things I do are like, okay, you keep saying this, did you look?
Mm-hmm.
Did you look? Did you look even once? And then you check and there's no proof, and they like AI job loss, really no proof of that. Do the businesses make sense? Don't make sense at all if you don't add up the numbers. Oh, history's so beautiful.
It's beautiful. That's why I was calling him in my head Ed Zitron. That didn't really work.
Ed Zitron, Chelios, Frank.
I could have tried so many different things that would have worked better than what I went with. Anyway, so Chevreul has correctly generalized that this same explanation illuminates what's really behind dowsing. He doesn't just call out, the pendulum chemical analysis. He's like, by the way, people are using dowsing's the same thing, obviously. But his findings did not initially spread widely, neither among the general populace nor even among a lot of educated people. By the 1850s, grifters and gurus were hosting regular seances and talking to the dead parties, where magic pendulums were used to communicate with ghosts. The whole Spiritist movement relied heavily on the ideomotor effect. Table turning was another common practice, and this was a Victorian-era parlor game that took off after the famous Fox sisters of Hydesville started claiming to communicate with spirits through knocks and taps on tables. In just a few years, the practice had evolved to table flipping, which is described in the website Moon Mausoleum this way. Participants would sit around a small table, fingertips lightly resting on the surface, and after a bit of concentration and maybe a dramatic chant or two, the table would begin to rock, tilt, and sometimes even levitate. And again, this is the ideomotor effect. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is basically everyone giving each other permission unconsciously to believe something silly and to have, like, a fun kind of heightened experience. And there's nothing wrong with this if you're not taking this as serious evidence of, like, how the universe works, which people do because we're dumb. So the fact that folks are believing all of this drives a lot of scientists crazy, in part because science had just been invented and early practitioners of the field still believed it could compete long-term with nonsense, which is a rookie mistake. Anyway, one of these guys was the physiologist William Carter, and Carter argued that none of these ideomotor charades are evidence of ghosts, writing, all the phenomena of the biologized state, when attentively examined, will be found to consist in the occupation of the mind by the ideas which have been suggested to it, and in the influence influence which these ideas exert upon the actions of the body. Carpenter, having described what's going on, coined a name for this phenomena in 1852, the ideomotor effect. That's where we get the name. Crucial to this whole process was his observation that the people participating in these table flipping games and rituals weren't lying generally or secretly manipulating the results. That happens sometimes, like with the Hyde sisters. Some of the people doing these are deliberately manipulating what's happening. But when people are doing, like, a group of friends get together to do like a table flipping seance, usually nobody's secretly manipulating the results. They're just all kind of tricking each other. And most of them are unaware of their own contributions to moving the table. Ideomotor action, then, provided a non-magical explanation for something that only seemed magic because participants were too close to the action to see what was really going on.
Right.
Now, the original definition of the ideomotor effect was the influence of suggestion in modifying and directing muscular movement independently of volition. As before, the mere fact that table turning had been explained and the underlying mechanism behind it named didn't immediately change anything. So the next year, 1853, a group of English scientists convened to find an explanation for what had already been explained. The internet maybe could have helped with this somewhat. There's a lot of people busting the same myths repeatedly at the same time. Because, like, how do you know if some guy in London has already, like, named, this effect?
Yeah,
or
I guess they weren't sending each other letters. There wasn't, like, a place for them to check.
I mean, they are sometimes, but you don't have a guarantee. It's not like someone can't just, like, find the results and then suddenly it's instantaneously in journals around the world. Like, you would have had to be exchanging letters with someone who knows that this is going on, right? You know who I exchanged letters with? The sponsors of this podcast, erotic letters, honestly. We both wish I'd stopped sending them, but there's no way around it.
Stop CCing me on those. I don't want to be included.
I love our sponsors. I love our sponsors,
Yeah, and I mean, that's how I pretty much interact with every Better Offline sponsor. They all get... I send some tasteful nudes as well. That's how we keep them coming.
That's right. And they keep telling me this isn't an OnlyFans, Robert. You don't have to do that to the advertisers. But by God, I found their home addresses. I'm mailing them pictures of me.
But you want to do it. That's why you do it.
Uh-huh. Thank you, Ed.
You want to.
Thank you. Anyway, here's some ads. Guys don't like talking about ED, but if something's been off in the bedroom, you're not alone, and you don't need to wait longer than you need to take action. Getting real treatment is simple, and through HIMS, it's 100% online. At some point, you've got to stop blaming stress, sleep, or just getting older. If bedroom performance is in question, it's probably crossed your mind to do something about it. The good news, you don't have to jump through hoops to fix it. HIMS connects you with licensed healthcare providers online, giving you simple access to legitimate ED treatment options from home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines. You just complete a simple online intake form, and a provider will review your information and determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment ships directly to your door in discreet packaging. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/BTB. That's hims.com/BTB for your free online visit. hims.com/BTB. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris, a Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris.
Ever look something up online and then see ads for it everywhere? That's not a coincidence. Startpage is the private search engine that finds what you need without anyone finding out you asked. Try startpage.com. That's startpage.com.
Dozens of executive orders, thousands of anti-LGBTQ+ bills, all designed to harm people we know, people we love, the people we are. Every day, Lambda Legal is in court fighting back. And when we take a stand, we're standing as the last line of defense between real human beings and harm. But we don't do it alone. With every act of support, you stand with us. And together, we'll hold the line. Fund the fight at lambdalegal.org/donate.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Some people love summer. It's their favorite season. Travel picks up. The kids are out of school. There's nothing but adventure on the horizon. Other people can't stand it, or at least have a lot of trouble with summer. It's hard to juggle. It can be overwhelming, and you're counting down the minutes soon until the kids are back in school. What are your summer plans? Do you plan to thrive, or are you just surviving the summer season? Either way, therapy might be a way to help you get the most out of this season. And if you're considering therapy, you might consider BetterHelp. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and matches, and their 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer, but you can find support in therapy. So sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/behind. That's betterhelp.com/behind. And we're back. So, there were several leading theories as to what was going on with the ideomotor effect and these pendulums and these tables, right? But among the people who wanted to have a scientific answer, but hadn't read any of the explanations that were going around in 1853. And the leading one was electricity. Because in 1853, people knew electricity existed, but it was basically magic in most of their minds, right? So when you're asking well, why is this thing moving when I hold it above this? It must be electricity. Gotta be electricity, right? It's the invisible, powerful force. Yeah.
And they're just probably
got some real electricity vibes to me, man. I don't know.
Guy who only knows one scientific theory.
Baron Karl von Reichenbach credited Odic force, which he named after Odin, and which he thought, this is one of my favorite things. So his Baron Reichenbach von Reichenbach's explanation for the ideomotor effect is no. There's this Odic force, and the way he describes it is just the force from Star Wars, right? He believes all living things radiate energy, and some people are sensitive to it and can even manipulate it. And there's even positive and negative energies, or even a light and dark side of the Odic force that you can learn to control.
Did he actually say light and dark?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Oh my God.
I mean, in German, but yes.
And what year was this?
This is the 1850s.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
He independently invented George Lucas.
George Lucas this is great. It just needs some more racist aliens, and then it'll be perfect.
Yeah, I need some aliens that look like they came out of Der Stürmer.
There's something about his middle name being Carl that's really funny.
It's really funny. It's really funny. It's good stuff. That's his first name. It's just that he's the Baron Karl.
That's
von
even better.
Reichenbach. So, anyway, 4 doctors were tasked with investigating the science behind table turning in the United States, and despite all the theories around it, they came to the same conclusion as Carpenter, although they did not give it a cool name. Quote, the conclusion was formed that the motion was due to muscular action, mostly exercised unconsciously. That same year in the United States, Michael Faraday conducted another prominent debunking of table turning. And by this point, the sheer weight of scientific consensus against this being real began to tell. Some regular people kept doing it, but scientists increasingly agreed it was nonsense. Some scientists. A major exception was Russell Wallace. And this guy's such a crank, I want his background to be shitty, but it's not. Russell Wallace independently invented the theory of natural selection at the same time as Charles Darwin. They published identically, and they both, Darwin, most people give more credit, but they both get credit because they both figured it out on their own, pretty much. Right. I mean, that's more complicated than that, but Wallace is a person who came up independently with the theory of natural. He's a smart man, right? But in 1865, he fell headfirst into Spiritism. Per Quackwatch, he was seated with other sitters around a table. The table behaved in ways he was sure could not be entirely explained by Faraday's findings and Carpenter's theory of ideomotor action, right? Basically, he is obviously, of course, I believe that what these other scientists have debunked it is clearly nonsense. And some folks are hey, you should actually go attend one of these seances for yourself and maybe you'll feel differently. And he does. And he's I was wrong. This is absolutely amazing, right? Now, it is true. The reading he went to didn't seem to work the way Faraday and Carpenter had described ideomotor action, because that wasn't what was going on. He was just being tricked by fake mediums who had a whole team of people hiding in different nooks and crannies in the house to make noises and create fake psychic phenomena. That happened a lot too. But he makes the mistake of assuming that because this is different, that the difference between what Faraday and Carpenter had seen, what he had seen, is because he'd seen real ghosts, as opposed to maybe some guys tricked me, right?
So there was a concerted effort to trick him, though.
There was a concerted effort to trick him, and he didn't catch it, right?
Nice.
And because Faraday and the other scientists hadn't described the exact kind of behavior he'd observed, he concluded skeptical scientists couldn't be trusted to analyze the paranormal because they wouldn't pay attention to the real stuff. Dr. Ray Hyman, writing for Quackwatch, calls this attitude loopholeism. Quote, the tendency to seek out each and every loophole in a skeptical account as a way to protect one's belief in a cherished supernatural or pseudoscientific claim.
I'm filing that shit away for the AI boosters. One's going in.
I thought you'd find this useful.
That's going loopholeism.
That's money. Yeah.
That is. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's getting a lot of use.
That's a handy term.
Mm-hmm.
Now, loopholeism is the kind of behavior you can mock as idiotic. But again, this is a legitimately brilliant man. What's really happening here is that loopholeism is the mechanism by which otherwise bright and even brilliant minds can trap themselves in nonsense. It provides a safety valve so that that sense of like internal like discrepancy between like what you know and what you're observing gets kind of turned off, right? That's what it allows you to do. It's how smart people get trapped believing stupid things. That's what loopholeism is. Not only smart people. Russell Wallace was one such mind, but another was Robert Hare, a professor emeritus of chemistry at the University of Pennsylvania in 1853, when he was 72 years old, and Faraday published his debunking of table turning. Hare was again a brilliant chemist, one of the great minds in his field. So when Faraday published this report, the Philadelphia Inquirer asked Hare for a comment, and Hare initially says, like, yeah, Faraday's right, this is bogus. And that convinces one Dr. Comstock and Mr. Amasa Holcomb, two men running a fake medium scam, to send this guy a letter and say, hey, if you're really a fair-minded scientist, why not attend a seance? And the same thing happens again.
Another scam artist?
And another scam artist. Two known con men, right?
Oh, man.
And one of Hare's friends, because Hare's like, obviously, this is real. Totally different than what the other guys saw. And one of his friends is like, was it possible that they were like conning you? And Hare's like, of course not. They're men of good character. I know they're men of good character because when I met them, they seemed like men of good character.
Hey, they seem like good fellas. What?
Yeah, they wouldn't lie to me about ghosts. And his logic was literally, well, they told me they spent hours every week asking spirits for information. And men of good character wouldn't waste all that time if it was a trick.
But that's like a classic scam. Because they scammed him in scientific
they
ways.
Him so good.
But like they were like, yeah, because whether or not like belief in ghosts separately to this doesn't matter. This is just a very classic scam of ingratiate the mark.
Just a scam.
Ingratiate the mark. But don't worry. I did the seance real scientific like, and I spent hours talking to the ghosts.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing that he'd never get asked for details about what the discussions might be.
Right.
Hell yes. This rocks.
So Hare goes off the fucking deep end after this. He writes a book in 1855 with a very long title. We did not know how to title books back then. Experimental Investigation of the Spirit Manifestations, demonstrating the existence of spirits and their communion with mortals. Doctrine of the spirit world, respecting heaven, hell, morality, and God. Also, the influence of Scripture on the morals of Christians.
Rolls off the tongue.
Again, man... Like the first couple of words, experimental investigations of the spirit manifestations. Boom. There you go. That's all we needed. That's all we need, Or experimental investigation of spirits. Boom. There's a title, I'm just trying to help you out here, man. Anyway, from that Quackwatch piece describing this fucking book, before undertaking his research into spiritualism, Hare tells us he was a materialist and an atheist. He describes in detail the various experiments he conducted that, to him, proved the existence of the spirit world. He himself developed mediumistic powers. During these experiments, Hare claimed he had communicated not only with the spirits of his departed relatives, but also those of George Washington, John Quincy Adams, Henry Clay, Benjamin Franklin, Lord Byron, and Isaac Newton.
Lord Byron, huh?
Lord Byron.
Lord Byron.
Okay.
Lord Byron.
Okay.
Lord Byron. What does Lord Byron have to say about this?
He asked if he could fuck his wife.
Okay.
That's what Lord Byron did.
May I fuck your wife? No, I want to know about spirits and stuff. No, the wife situation.
The wife, man.
Let's discuss the wife situation before we get to spirits.
So... He also created a device that sounds like a direct precursor to the Ouija board. quote, "The spirit scope, as he called it, consisted of a pasteboard disc slightly larger than a foot in diameter. Around its circumference, he attached the letters of the alphabet in a haphazard order. An arrow that swiveled at the center of the disc was used to select letters one at a time by pointing toward them. For his initial test, he had a medium sit opposite him at a table. The disc was placed between Hare and the medium, such that Hare could see the letters and the movements of the arrow, but the medium could not. The medium sat with her hands on a surface above the table, which, through a system of pulleys, cords, and weights, was attached to the arrow, such that slight pressures of her hand would cause it to move in various directions and point to letters. Hare asked if any spirits were present. The arrow pointed to the letter Y, indicating yes. Hare next asked the spirit to provide the initials of his name. The index pointed to R and then to H. Hare asked, 'My honored father?' The index pointed to Y." Now, Hare hadn't really figured out the secret to contacting the dead. He thought he had, because he's like, well, she can't see the letters, so it's got to be a spirit. But while this medium couldn't see the letters he was looking at, she could see his face. And thus, she could move her hand to modify where the thing landed based on his response. And she
kind of
wasn't
like
even...
mentalists do, huh?
Yes,
right?
Yes, it's the same set of principles, right? And Hare even realizes she's not necessary because he starts operating the spirit scope alone and it still works. And he's like, that must really mean it's real. And no, man, it's just the same. It's the ideomotor effect.
And also I assume that also so the medium could control the thingy.
Yeah. Yes, when he was doing it with them, yeah.
And thus the medium would know what letters corresponded to what hand?
Well, if he, as he's saying, like because he's reading the letters, and if she gets to Y and he's like, oh, does that mean Y? And she's like, yeah, that's where I want it to be.
So he was
right?
prompting her.
Yes. There's
Very
a degree
cool.
of that going on. Yeah. Always the case
say,
with shit like this.
Why? Yeah, it's asking why you want to know.
Right, exactly. So the decades go by and science gains a robust understanding of how all this stuff works. Regular people continue to fall for it, but it's at least less commonly accepted in educated halls. That said, this still fools a lot of people periodically. One famous example from the 20th century is the case of Clever Hans, a German horse in the early 1900s who, it was claimed, had been taught to do math, tell time, read and write, and a bunch of other things that horses cannot do. And so he's going to show you, here's Clever Hans, and what you've got is basically his owner would point to, if you wanted to have Clever Hans, give people the answer to 5 times 4, right? He would point to 5 times 4, and then Hans would start stomping until he reached 20, right? Thus showing that Hans knew how to do 5 times 4. And Hans could indeed do stuff like this. And so people were like, what else could that be but a horse knowing all of these things, right? However, as with table reading, once Clever Hans became really famous, there's a commission that gets formed to study him. So the first thing they do, being scientists, is separate him from his owner, and they do a bunch of tests, and they're able to show that, wow, other people can get Hans to successfully give correct answers too, which at first seems, well, maybe that really does mean Hans knows what he's doing. But further study showed Hans only gets answers correct if the person asking him the question knows the right answer and Hans can see them, right? Those two things have to be in place, right? In other words, Hans doesn't know what 5 times 4 is, or what 3 times 3 is, or what 2 plus 2 is. Hans knows when he starts tapping, at a certain point, the person asking him a question gets really excited if they know what the answer is, because that's the answer, and then he stops and he gets rewarded, right? That's what Hans is reacting to. So one thing this shows, which is legitimately of scientific interest, is that horses are very empathetic. Right? Hans doesn't know math or anything or science or anything else, but he knows when people are excited and happy with his performance. And that's what he's reading for, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, honestly, Hans does sound clever.
He's clever. He is. He's a smart horse, just not in the way people thought, right?
I also like the reason I laughed so hard was the idea of a panel or a committee, like a bunch of guys got together.
to talk to this horse.
We gotta
We're
work
gonna
out
see how
this
smart this horse is.
or like, was there an alarm of like our horse is becoming
Our horse is
intelligent?
really smart. Yes, there was. People were like, "Wait a second, what's going on here?"
They're thinking of like an early version of "Sorry to Bother You."
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Now, this is not the ideomotor effect, but it's relevant for a reason I'm going to bring up in a second. I should let you know, Clever Hans gets found out, right? Like, people realize what's going on not long before World War I. And for his many crimes, he was eventually drafted into World War I and was killed in action in 1916 and immediately eaten by starving German infantry. This might not seem like it's the same. I know that's kind of bleak. It's not really Hans's fault. World War I. Catch the fever. This may not seem like the same deal as dowsing, and it's not the ideomotor effect, but the human psychology behind it is very similar. Whether it's a horse or a forked stick, we're the ones with the answers, and we just convince ourselves something else is at play, right? Today, in the 21st century, Clever Hans is a fun, old-timey story, but people are still just as easily tricked by animal behavior. And I'm going to have a brief digression to talk about police dogs here. But first, you know who never gets police dogs called on them?
Who?
The sponsors of this podcast, because they bribe the police.
We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know this.
I can't.
AI is taking over the internet. Wrong answers, made-up facts. You ask a simple question and get a generated essay nobody asked for. Technology trying to decide for you and still getting it wrong. The internet didn't used to be this way. When you just want to search anything online and find what you need, Startpage is the private search engine that keeps it simple. Real links, less noise, and we don't keep track of what you asked. Try Startpage at startpage.com. That's startpage.com.
Dozens of executive orders, thousands of anti-LGBTQ plus bills, all designed to harm people we know, people we love, the people we are. Every day, Lambda Legal is in court fighting back. And when we take a stand, we're standing as the last line of defense between real human beings and harm. But we don't do it alone. With every act of support, you stand with us. And together, we'll hold the line. Fund the fight at lambdalegal.org/donate.
Protect your pet with insurance from Pets Best. Plans start from less than $1 a day. Visit petsbest.com. Pet insurance products offered and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC, are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company or Independence American Insurance Company. For terms and conditions, visit www.petsbest.com/policy. Products are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company, Independence American Insurance Company, or MS Transverse Insurance Company, and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC. $1 a day premium based on 2024 average new policyholder data for accident and illness plans, pets age 0 to 10.
Wasn't that delicious? So good.
Your bill, ladies.
I got it. No,
I got it.
Seriously, I insist. I insisted first. Oh, don't be silly. You don't be silly.
People with the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card prefer to pay because they earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. No!
The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
And we're back. So, we're talking about cop dogs. This is a digression, but it's very relevant to the story of Clever Hans. Because if you had an education like I did, and Ed, you grew up in the UK, so I don't think you guys had dare cops. But did you have cops come into your class to talk about how dangerous drugs were?
No. They one time came in and showed us that guns were scary.
Okay, that's good. Kids should know that.
They also let us rack a pump-action shotgun, which was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, wow, these things seem real scary. And you go, you're like, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, these are cool. Yeah, horrible idea.
And it was an all-boys private school where I was the dumbest kid as well. So it's like, maybe don't show any of these children this.
Yeah, it is. That is a bad idea.
But thankfully, we don't have a Second Amendment, which is a great thing, considering.
But it is the same thing with like drugs and with guns, where if you bring them into a school, some number of kids will be like, these things are kind of cool, right? Yeah. So in my education, I had a dare cop come into our class and tell us about drugs. And he also talked to us about canine units, right? And how they would find if you had even a sprinkle of weed in a full car or a locker, a dog can sniff it out. That's how good their noses are, right? You can't hide anything from dogs. They're almost supernatural, how good they are at smelling out drugs. And that sounded plausible. Most people just believe that, without thinking further about it, because dog noses really are that good. A bloodhound is capable of picking out a tiny amount of weed in a locker or a backpack or whatever. But that doesn't mean that's what's happening when a canine unit alerts and says there's drugs or a bomb somewhere. Yeah. In 2011, the Chicago Tribune went through 3 years' worth of cases where cops had used drug dogs to find drugs in cars in the area. Per NPR, quote, according to the analysis, officers found drugs or paraphernalia in only 44% of cases in which the dogs had alerted them. When the driver was Latino, the dogs were right just 27% of the time. Jesus. That seems worse than guessing.
Did they just train the dogs to be racist as well?
No, that's the best part. Maybe, but that's not the thing that is to blame for this specific thing, Ed. So when the Tribune reached out to the cops and was like, this seems kind of fucked up. If these dogs are so good, why is this happening? And why are they less accurate on people that the cops might be racist towards? And the dog handling officers responded first by saying, well, you can't measure our accuracy based on the number of alerts that find drugs, right? Dog noses are too good. So if they alert on a car and say there's drugs and then we don't find drugs in the car, it's just because there used to be drugs in there. So
you're saying you can't measure our effectiveness by how effective we are.
Right. These things are probable cause if a dog alerts on your car. And this is how much they suck at their fucking jobs. And I'm not blaming the dogs. Again, the dogs are doing a clever Hans.
This is the thing. People talk about dogs, that all dogs are good boys. I think we've statistically proven that that's not true today.
I disagree. Ed, it's not the dog's fault. Because what's happening here is the same. It's the same as with clever Hans. Because what's happening here is the dogs, when they get up to a car, they see their owner gets excited where the owner thinks there are drugs. And if the owner if their handler thinks there's drugs. So if a cop pulls over a car that's being driven by a Mexican dude and he assumes this guy's got to have drugs on him, the dog's going to alert because he sees the owner wants him to alert. Dogs are really good at knowing what we want. And dogs have no idea what alerting on a car means for the people in the car.
No, of course not.
They don't understand that. They're dogs. What they know is that they make their owner happy if they alert on the car because their owner's a racist piece of shit. And that's what they're doing. That's how cop dogs work.
God. That's so horrible. I retract my statements about dogs being... I cannot unilaterally say all dogs are good, but these are not necessarily bad
These
dogs.
are not necessarily their fault, right?
All dogs are good.
Yeah. And
your dogs are good.
They're great.
What I do find funny is that when the Tribune talked to cop trainers, the cop trainers were like the people who train cop dogs were like, oh, it's the dogs just smelled drugs that had been there. But when the Tribune talked to people who are experts on dogs, specifically people who are actually study dogs professionally, like Lawrence Myers, a professor from Auburn University who studies canine units. He told them, quote, dog handlers can accidentally cue alerts from their dogs by leading them too slowly or too many times around a vehicle. And a lot of times, by the way, the handlers know this. So sometimes this isn't even the dog innocently alerting to please the handler. Sometimes the handler knows if I walk around this area 3 times, the dog will automatically alert.
Oh,
right?
So the dog starts freaking out. I see.
Yes.
Damn, that's fucked up. That's so
really
fucking horrible. That's so...
It's fucked up. And in that same interview, Myers, the drug dog expert, brings up Clever Hans. He's like, that's what's happening a lot of time with canine units. Now, that same year, a researcher named Lisa Litt had published an actual scientific study on the efficacy of canine units. She'd tested the abilities of 14 sniffer dogs and secretly their handlers, right? She'd told the handlers, hey, in this specific test, there's a cocaine target scent in the car. So the handlers went in knowing there was supposed to be cocaine, but she hadn't actually put the target scent there. So the owners were told it was there. The handlers were told it was there. So they thought it was there. And even though it wasn't, their dogs tended to alert that it was there because the handlers expected it and had been told a scent was nearby, which kind of proves that they're full of shit, right? The study damaged Litt's career, even though it was brilliant because it pissed off dog trainers, cops, and put at risk the entire way that a lot of law enforcement works in the U.S. because a canine alert counts as probable cause. Now, ultimately, after years, it did inspire some trainers in some departments to adopt more rigorous standards to control for this kind of bias. But there's been absolutely no systemic reform. Anyway, That's a digression, but I want you to remember it because this is not going to be the last or the only time in this story that something like this goes down. But back to Clever Hans. After he gets eaten by those Germans and World War I ends, Spiritism fades from relevance and the ideomotor effect starts being taught in school and to science students, right? Medical science and material science advances rapidly over the next decades, and the ideomotor effect's influence shrinks, mostly to the field of parlor tricks and children's board games. And of course, to dowsing. People continue to use dowsing rods all around the world as they still do today, right? Now, at some point in the late 1980s or early 1990s, an enterprising inventor, who we'll talk about in the next episode, was playing a round of golf, probably while thinking about the ideomotor effect. That's how I assume that this all came to pass, what we're going to talk about next. Because one constant annoyance when you're golfing is that you lose balls, right? And if you lose your ball, you lose strokes, right? They add strokes to your score, and it also costs money and time because you have to pay for them, right? So there's always been money in finding golf balls or convincing people you've developed a way that they can do that. Enter the Gopher. Now, Sophie's going to show you what this thing looked like. This is a gag gift primarily. It's an empty plastic box with a collapsible antenna that you can unfold from it, and you spin it out, and you walk around where you think you lost your ball, and if you use it right, the antenna will drop to point at your missing ball, right? It's the same as all of this shit works. And Sophie's got an example of the package of this product that starts being sold in the late 80s, early 90s.
The Gopher, the amazing golf ball finder.
Yep, a video. You need that. That hasn't, the guys at Red Letter Media periodically will do watch a bunch of old VHS tapes like this sort of shit and make fun of them. I haven't seen them get the Gopher yet, but I'm looking forward to it every day. Yeah, the perfect gift for the golfer who has everything. Quick and easy to operate. Just like a magnetic compass needle, which swings of its own accord to the North Pole, the direction-finding antenna of your Gopher will swing of its own accord in the direction of a golf ball as soon as your shoulders line up with the ball. The Gopher does not generate or transmit any harmful signals and is environmentally safe. That part is true.
Sure.
It does not generate or transmit any signals.
What does it just go?
Nothing. It just moves with your hand. There's nothing in there. There's no electronics. There's no battery. It does nothing. It's just a box with an antenna on it.
What the fuck?
It's just a lie.
Did no one look?
But hey, according to the packaging, it can be used by right or left-handed people.
And even underwater.
Even underwater.
Cool.
Yeah. In deep rough or the bush. Yeah. Looks like a great product. So we're going to talk about the Gopher more in part 2, because as a spoiler, the Gopher directly leads to the deaths of hundreds and hundreds of Iraqi civilians.
Nice.
And not just civilians in Iraq. In a lot of places, to be fair, but mostly Iraq. So we'll tell the story about how this gag gift that doesn't help people find golf balls becomes a multi-tens of millions of dollars defense product that leads to huge numbers of deaths during the war in Iraq. But that's next episode, Ed. How are you feeling in this episode, into part 1?
I'm feeling confused, but also validated that history is full of people just getting fucking swindled by complete dog shit, just complete nonsense.
Yeah,
just nonsense.
Yeah.
Absolute crap.
We're so bad at learning when things are complete bullshit. I love it.
I love it.
Yeah. I love it.
We've learned nothing.
We've learned nothing. Except, Ed, you've learned how to make a damn good podcast. You want to tell our listeners where they can listen to it?
BetterOffline.com. Listen to my goddamn podcast. We do a monologue. We do interviews. We do more monologues. We do a lot of monologues. Join the subreddit. Read my newsletter. Where's your ed.at? Is the newsletter. Just join me. Join me on my various platforms.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Let's all go to the not here until it's time for part 2. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Full video episodes of Behind the Bastards are now streaming on Netflix, dropping every Tuesday and Thursday. Hit Remind Me on Netflix so you don't miss an episode. For clips and our older episode catalog, continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@behindthebastards. We love about 40% of you, statistically speaking.
AI has taken over the internet. Wrong answers, made-up facts. You ask a simple question and get a generated essay nobody asked for. Technology trying to decide for you and still getting it wrong. The internet didn't used to be this way. When you just want to search anything online and find what you need, Startpage is the private search engine that keeps it simple. Real links, less noise, and we don't keep track of what you asked. Try Startpage at startpage.com. That's startpage.com.
Did you know you can get your prep for free? Mr. provides 100% free prep and DoxyPep prescribed online and delivered right to your door discreetly. Whether you have insurance or not, Mr.'s got you covered in 3 easy steps. 1. Sign up at Mr.com. 2. Consult with a doctor online. 3. Complete your at-home test kit. And then your prep and DoxyPep come right to your door. No doctor's office, no needles, no paperwork. Easy, judgment-free, and totally online. Head to Mr.com and get started today.
This is Matt Altmix from How to Money, and we are all about comparing prices to save money on so many things in life. I'm talking flights, phone plans, groceries, restaurants. So why wouldn't you compare prices for your next ride share? Taking a few seconds to check Lyft can save you real money on your next ride. I did this the last time I caught a ride home from the airport after some travel. Guess who came out on top? Lyft. Comparing rideshare prices will help you to save money every time you ride. Save money, check Lyft.
This is Jenny Garth from I Choose Me with Jenny Garth. History is full of mysteries, like how people ever survived before modern laundry detergent. Luckily, Tide's here with boosted stain fighting for cleaner, whiter, brighter, and fresher laundry versus Tide Simply. No wonder it was America's #1 detergent in sales last year. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide. Tide is a proud sponsor of the Elton John Impact Awards, honoring those who have helped shape a more inclusive and compassionate world with their artistry, advocacy, and unwavering commitment to equality. You won't want to miss the Elton John Impact Awards podcast, available on June 1st on the iHeartRadio app and everywhere podcasts are heard.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.